the atmosphere, the atmosphere, atmosphere, the atmosphere, atmosphere. The atmosphere, atmosphere in the cemetery, in like a party, where oh, in the cemetery, in the cemetery, in the cemetery. In the cemetery, in the cemetery. Dead ancestor. Ồ, tôi lại không nghe được cái từ này, tôi sẽ định. Câu này ông đấy nói là family were, families, 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 family were sitting around the grave of uh, dead, the dead ancestor, or the graves around around the dead, around the graves, or the graves of the dead ancestor. À, tôi hiểu. Where, ông này hỏi where were the family sitting? The families were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestor. The 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 sitting around that dead ancestor around the graves, around the graves. Who are the families? The families. Trees? The trees? No. Around the graves. Then around the graves. Around the graves. Where were they sitting? Oh, they were sitting around the graves. Dead ancestor. The dead ancestor. The dead. The families. Uh, oh no, they wasn't sitting around the grave. A friend. The families. The families. The families. The families. Fresh flower. Added. Added fresh flower. No, they didn't add food. Food? No, they didn't add money. Money, money. Fresh, fresh, fresh flower. They cleaned graves, cleaned the graves. The graves, the graves, to the graves. Oh, you walked through the cemetery. Through the cemetery. No, you didn't walk through the park. Park. Through the park. You worked, worked. You, you worked, you worked, you worked, you worked through the cemetery. You worked through the cemetery, through the cemetery, cemetery. Oh, you, AJ. You worked the cemetery. You worked the cemetery. Of all the colorful flower. No, you didn't admire the tree. The beauty. No, you didn't. The children. Oh, what did you admire? What did you admire? You admire. You admire. You admire. You admired. You admired. You admired. You admired the colorful, the beauty of colorful flower, of, of the beauty, the admire. You admire the beauty of colorful flower, flower, earth, of all the colorful flowers. Ooh, you, AJ. Of all the colorful flowers. Where? Oh, the grave, the grave, the grave. The the graves, graves. On the grave, in the cemetery, on the grave, on the grave, in the cemetery. Ông AJ ông ấy hỏi là were the flowers in the park? In the park, was were was the flower was the flower was the flower was the flower in the park? Tôi sẽ trả lời là no, it wasn't. The flower, the flowers were in the were was in the were in the cemetery, were in the cemetery, the cemetery. Ông đấy lại hỏi tiếp một câu là were the flower in my house, in my house, in my house, in my house. No, it wasn't in your house. It was. It wasn't in your house. It wasn't in your house. In your house. It wasn't in your house. It wasn't in your house. Ông này hỏi tiếp nào. Where were the flowers? Where was the flower? Where 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 were the flowers? Where were the flowers? The flower, the flowers, flowers, the flowers were were on the grave. Uh, the flowers were on the graves. Graves, graves. On the graves. In cemetery, in cemetery. Câu để hỏi tiếp là where did I work? Where did I work? Work. Where did I work? Work, work, or work. Where did I work? Where did I work? Where did I work? À, tôi sẽ trả lời là you worked, worked, you worked through the cemetery. The cemetery. Oh, when did I walk through the cemetery? Walk through. When did when did when did when did when did I walk? When did I walk through the cemetery? Oh, tôi sẽ trả lời là you walked. You walked through the cemetery uh, on November 1st. November 1st. November 1st, the Day of the Dead. Ồ, để hỏi tiếp là what were the cemetery like? What were the cemetery like? What were the cemetery like? The cemetery like a party, like a party, like a party, like a party, like a party. Was I curious about holiday? Alright. Was I curious? Was I curious? Was I curious? Curious. Was I curious about this holiday? Yes, you were curious about this holiday. You curious. Yes, you were you were curious about this holiday. This holiday. The Day of the Dead. Oh, where was the color? In the sky, in the sky, in the sky, in the sky. in the sky. Why? Uh, why was the color in the sky? Because uh, many children are flying kite. Were flying kite. Kids were flying kites. Kids flying kites. Who were flying kites? Who? Who? Who was flying kites? Who were flying kites? Um, Kids. The kids were flying kites. 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 Kids. Kids were flying kites after. Oh, not really. The sky, the sky were colorful. What? In the sky were colorful. Oh, because the kids were flying kites. What were flying? Oh, the kids were flying kites, kites. Where? Oh, in the sky. Oh, in the cemetery. In 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 the cemetery. In the kids. Kids. Yes, J8. Family, family, family. Người having big watermelon fruit không what watermelon fruit. No, they didn't eat American food. They ate the watermelon food. The watermelon food. Ôi, hello anh em. Vậy là đã 25 phút rồi. Đấy, theo Podomo thì tôi sẽ nghỉ 5 phút.